Genesis 1 verse 8. God called the vault sky. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. God called the vault sky. Here, God names the vault that he created in the previous verses. The Hebrew word for sky is shemayim, which can also be translated as heaven or the heavens. By naming the vault sky, God establishes its function and purpose as the space between the waters above and the waters below. This naming gives the vault a specific identity, continuing the process of bringing order and clarity to creation. The act of naming is important as it shows God's authority over creation. Just as he named day and night, here he names the sky, further demonstrating his role as sovereign ruler who defines the boundaries and purposes of his creation. Naming something in the biblical tradition is often an act of asserting control and dominion, and this act continues the theme of God's creative and governing power. The concept of the sky, shemayim. The sky or heavens in ancient understanding was viewed as the expanse above the earth, where the sun, moon, stars, and weather systems exist. The sky was often considered a divine realm where God's presence could be felt, and it was connected to the mysterious and powerful forces of nature, such as storms and rainfall. In calling the vault sky, God is creating a space that will serve as the backdrop for the future placement of the sun, moon, and stars, which will come on the fourth day. In biblical cosmology, the sky is not merely a physical reality but also represents a spiritual dimension, a realm where God interacts with his creation. The sky becomes a symbol of God's transcendence, as it is vast, seemingly unreachable, and yet part of the ordered universe that he has designed. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. As with the first day, this phrase marks the completion of the second day of creation. The repetition of evening and morning underscores the orderly progression of time in creation. It also reminds the reader that each day of creation has a clear beginning and end, with God's creative work being organized into distinct phases. Interestingly, the second day is the only day in the creation narrative where God does not explicitly declare his creation good. Some scholars suggest that this might be because the separation of waters on the second day is incomplete. Further creative acts, such as the gathering of waters and the emergence of dry land, are yet to come. The lack of the good pronouncement may also emphasize that God's work is not yet finished, and further acts of creation are required to bring about a fully ordered and good world. Theological reflection on the second day. The second day of creation is a continuation of God's work to bring order out of chaos. The separation of waters and the creation of the sky is part of God's overarching plan to create a world that is structured and capable of sustaining life. This separation of realms, waters above, waters below, and the sky between, lays the foundation for the future creation of living creatures and the ecosystems they will inhabit. Theologically, the sky serves as a boundary between heaven and earth, symbolizing the separation between the divine and human realms. While the sky is part of creation, it also represents the vastness and majesty of God, who transcends the earthly realm. This boundary reminds us that while God is present and active in creation, he is also far above it, existing outside of the limitations of the created world. Symbolic and spiritual aspects of the sky. In many parts of Scripture, the heavens, sky, are seen as a reflection of God's glory and power. For instance, Psalm 19 verse 1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands." The sky represents the vastness and majesty of God's creation, stretching above the earth and pointing to his greatness. Additionally, the sky is often seen as the place from which God speaks or reveals himself, for example, in visions or through the sending of rain. The separation of the waters and the creation of the sky can be understood as the establishment of a cosmic order where the natural and the spiritual are distinct but also connected, with the sky functioning as the boundary and meeting place between God and his creation. Genesis 1 verse 8 concludes the second day of creation with God naming the vault sky, thereby giving it identity and purpose. The separation of waters and the creation of the sky represent another step in God's ongoing work to bring order and structure to the universe. The sky serves both a physical function, as the space where the atmosphere and weather systems operate, and a symbolic function, representing God's transcendence and the separation between the divine and human realms. The completion of the second day without the declaration of good leaves the sense that the creation process is still unfolding, and further acts of separation and organization are yet to come.